The HOA's tree-cutting scheme. I slammed on the brakes in my driveway, heart pounding. My beloved maple tree, the one that had shaded my home for 15 summers, was under attack. Two men in orange vests hacked into it with roaring chainsaws. "Stop! What are you doing to my tree?" I yelled, sprinting across the lawn. The workers froze, glancing at each other. But a woman in a white pantsuit marched toward me from next door. Margaret Hill, self-appointed queen of Maple Grove Estates, wore her usual scowl. "Finally someone's taking care of this nightmare," she said. "Your leaves clog my gutters. Your roots are cracking my driveway." I ignored her and turned to the crew chief. "This is my property. Who authorized this?" "HOA approval, sir." He handed me a wrinkled paper stamped with the signature of Gordon Bell, HOA president, and Margaret's golf buddy. "I never got notice," I said, scanning the letter. "Notice was sent," Margaret said smugly. My phone buzzed. A text from my neighbor Walter Green. "Saw the crew. Did they finally wear you down?" "This stops now," I told the workers, raising my phone to take photos. "Not until I verify this with the board." They shrugged, but a sharp crack split the air. A half-cut limb snapped and crashed onto Margaret's prized gazebo, splintering it and crushing her roses. She screamed, "My gazebo? Do you see what your tree did? You'll pay every penny." I pointed at the saw marks. "That happened because your crew weakened the tree." As if on cue, a black SUV pulled up. Out stepped Gordon Bell, clipboard in hand. "Your crew is cutting my tree without consent," I said. "Per bylaw 7.2, hazardous trees can be removed," Gordon replied smoothly. "We've had complaints." "Let me guess," I said. "Margaret, you, and your wife. The tree's coming down. If you fight, fines add up fast," Gordon warned. "I'll call my lawyer," I snapped. "That gazebo bill is yours either way," he said as they walked off. The lawsuit. That night, I documented everything. When I checked my mailbox, there was a notice, but dated yesterday, not 2 weeks ago. At 3 a.m., I saw Gordon's SUV pulling away from my curb. Morning brought worse news. A certified letter suing me for $28,000 in damages to Margaret's gazebo. Attached was an engineer's report, dated 3 weeks earlier, claiming my tree was diseased. The timeline stank. Walter called. "I saw Gordon sneaking around your yard. Check your survey. They want something on your land." I dug out my property documents. The survey clearly showed the tree was 2 feet inside my boundary, with a realtor's note highlighting its value. "They had no right to touch it," Walter said. Anger replaced fear. I gathered photos, bylaws, and the survey into a file. Bylaw 7.3 was clear. The HOA cannot remove mature trees on private property without written consent. The next morning, Margaret showed up with muffins. "We can discuss a payment plan. 28,000 is a lot." "Actually," I said calmly, "the tree was on my private property, which means the HOA destroyed it illegally." Her smile dropped. "You don't want enemies here," she hissed, before storming off. Minutes later, an email arrived. Urgent lien notice. The HOA was placing a lien on my home. The meeting. That evening, I went to the community center. 30 neighbors sat in neat rows as Gordon droned about pool rules. I cut him off. "You destroyed my property without permission, and now you're suing me." "This is not the procedure," he said. "I don't care about procedure," I said louder. "You cut down my tree, and now you're trying to ruin me." The room buzzed. Walter nodded encouragement. "That tree violated landscaping rules," Gordon said. "Nothing about trees that predate the HOA," said a firm voice. A woman in a navy suit strode in. "Elaine Porter, attorney at law. I represent the homeowner," she announced. "You destroyed a mature maple worth $15,000. "That's ridiculous," Margaret barked. "Conservative estimate," Elaine said. "Mature trees increase value. You knew that when you approved it." I projected my survey onto the screen. The tree was entirely on my land. You had no right to touch it. Neighbors gasped. "This survey must be outdated," Gordon said. "I have a recent one from last year." "Same lines," I replied. "Absurd," Margaret snapped. "That tree blocked my sunset." "Cutting down a neighbor's tree without consent is a criminal offense," Elaine said. "Multiple complaints." "Safety risk," Gordon insisted. "Then why no arborist report?" I asked. "I have one proving it was healthy." Elaine handed out documents. "We filed a countersuit for damages, trespass, and property destruction. And we filed a police report." The room erupted. Neighbors whispered, took photos. This meeting is adjourned. Gordon bellowed, banging his gavel. In the hallway, he grabbed my arm. You don't know who you're dealing with. I can make your life miserable. Elaine peeled his hand off. That sounded like a threat. He straightened his tie. Fighting the HOA is a losing battle. The investigation. The next morning, Detective Nina Alvarez showed up at my kitchen table. We've been looking at Gordon's construction company for a year, she said. She showed photos of trucks at the community center. They billed $65,000 for roof repairs worth $20,000. Every contract for 5 years went to his company. No bids. Board members who objected got violations. Those who cooperated got perks, like Margaret's illegal fencing that magically passed inspection. She flipped another page. Margaret's husband sits on the zoning commission. He approved Gordon's controversial Silverbrook development. Your lot backs onto the creek feeding it. They're having drainage problems. They need someone to blame. They wanted soil samples, I said. That's why they cut the roots. Exactly, she said. They're trying to manufacture contamination to force you out. She closed the folder. This crosses state lines. We've pulled in the FBI. Escalation. That night, a rock shattered my window with a note. Leave now or worse will come. Next morning, orange environmental hazard signs ring my yard. Fake hazmat workers in suits took soil samples. Neighbors stared. A news van arrived. By evening, texts poured in. Is your house toxic? A courier delivered notice of an emergency vote to evict me. That night, my security camera pinged. The feed showed Gordon, Jenkins, and another board member sneaking into my yard, digging and testing soil, then celebrating before leaving. I sent the video to Elaine. They're fabricating evidence, she said. The FBI told me, attend the emergency vote. Record everything. The showdown. The community center was packed. Margaret, in pearls, whispered to friends, that's the troublemaker. Gordon took the podium. This resident continues to defy our rules. Unauthorized surveillance, hazardous property. Tests show contaminants threatening our water supply. Neighbors gasped. My Pomeranian won't even walk past his house. Margaret cried. Walter stood. Who performed these tests? Show the results. My specialists, Gordon said. Details aren't important. He clicked to HOA bylaws. Section 23C allows eviction. Tonight we vote. But before he could call the vote, the doors burst open. FBI agents swept in. Gordon Bell, said Special Agent Priya Shah. We have federal warrants to seize HOA financial records and your business files. The room exploded. Margaret shrieked. This is outrageous. We also have warrants for Margaret Hill, James Jenkins, and Sarah Willis, Shah added. Evidence of what? A neighbor shouted. Embezzlement, said Detective Alvarez, stepping forward. Over $1 million stolen through inflated contracts. Gasps filled the room. That's why our dues kept rising, someone shouted. Agents projected spreadsheets on the screen, records from Bell Construction. Next to my name was written, target for removal. Property needed for detention pond expansion. They planned to force you out for the new development, Shaw explained. Neighbors turned on Gordon and Margaret. Agents cuffed them on the spot. The meeting dissolved into chaos, questions, apologies, outrage. The aftermath. In the weeks that followed, the fraud unraveled. Gordon was indicted for fraud and conspiracy. Margaret pleaded guilty to false reports. The old board was dissolved and replaced by a court-appointed administrator. Refunds began flowing back to homeowners. The lien on my house vanished. My record was cleared. We held a neighborhood picnic to celebrate. Kids rode bikes. Neighbors who had ignored me now shook my hand. Walter grilled burgers, grinning. I replanted a young maple where the old one had stood. A small plaque at its base reads, in memory of a good tree and a neighborhood worth fighting for. That night, I sat on my porch with iced tea. For the first time in months, the breeze through the leaves felt like peace. The HOA's fraud was over. My home was safe. And justice, finally, was clear.